There is a mystery that surrounds those who carry God's presence. It is not something they wear as a badge, nor do they shout it from the rooftops. Instead, it is seen in their actions, felt in their presence, and known through the peace that follows them. They walk among us, often unnoticed by the world, yet they carry within them the greatest treasure of all, God Himself. Have you ever encountered someone who seems to carry a peace that cannot be shaken, even in the face of chaos? Someone whose words seem to cut through the noise of this world and reach your soul. You might wonder, what is it about this person? Why do they seem so different, so unwavering, so rooted? That, my friend, is the unmistakable mark of someone walking with God. But let me ask you something even more profound. Could that person be you? Could you be carrying God's presence without fully realizing it? The truth is, when you walk with God, His presence transforms you from the inside out. It changes how you see the world, how you respond to challenges, and how you live each day. This transformation is not for a select few. It is available to anyone who chooses to walk closely with the Creator. Walking with God is not just a lofty idea or a poetic sentiment. It is a daily reality for those who seek Him with their whole heart. Yet in this fast-paced world filled with distractions, it is easy to overlook the signs of His presence in our lives. Many of us carry a divine light but fail to recognize it because we are too busy comparing ourselves to others or chasing fleeting goals. What if I told you that there are unmistakable signs, clear indicators that God is with you? These signs are not about perfection or outward displays of piety. They are about the quiet, powerful work of God within you. These signs are not reserved for the saints of old, but are alive and active in ordinary people like you and me who dare to walk by faith. So, how do you know if you are carrying God's presence? How can you tell if you are walking with Him, even when the world around you seems unaware? Stay with me, and together we will uncover 7 unmistakable signs that you are anointed, chosen, and walking hand in hand with the Almighty. Each of these signs will challenge you to reflect deeply on your journey. They will encourage you to recognize the evidence of God's presence in your life and inspire you to walk even closer with Him. Let us dive into these signs and discover what it truly means to carry the presence of God in your life. These signs are not just evidence of God's presence, they are a call to live boldly, faithfully, and purposefully. Embrace them, and let the world see the light of God shining through you. First sign, you radiate peace in the midst of chaos. Peace is not the absence of chaos. It is the presence of God within the chaos. This peace is not something you can manufacture, buy, or fake. It is a supernatural gift that flows from walking with God. When His presence resides in you, it transforms the way you experience the storms of life. Instead of being consumed by anxiety, fear, or doubt, you stand firm, calm, and assured. This is not because you are immune to challenges, but because you know who is with you in the midst of them. Imagine walking through a raging storm. The winds howl, the rain pours, and the path ahead is obscured by darkness. Most people would panic, paralyzed by uncertainty and fear. But you walk forward with a quiet confidence, your spirit untouched by the turmoil around you. This is what it means to radiate peace in the midst of chaos. It is not a human attribute, it is evidence of God working in and through you. This peace is unexplainable to those who do not know God. They look at you and wonder how you can remain calm when everything seems to be falling apart. They ask, how can you be so steady? How can you smile when others are overwhelmed? The answer is simple yet profound. You have placed your trust in the One who holds the entire universe in His hands. You know that no storm is too great for Him, and that no situation escapes His control. This peace is not passive, it is active. It guards your heart and mind against the attacks of fear and despair. It enables you to respond to challenges with clarity and strength, rather than being swept away by the tide of emotion. The Apostle Paul describes it perfectly in Philippians 4:7, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This is not a peace the world can give. It is divine, and it sets you apart. When you carry God's presence, you become a source of stability for others. Your peace becomes contagious, inspiring those around you to trust in God's sovereignty. In times of crisis, people naturally gravitate toward you, drawn by the serenity you exude. They may not understand it, but they recognize that there is something different about you, something divine. You become a living testimony of what it means to walk with God. This peace also enables you to make wise decisions under pressure. While others react impulsively or out of fear, you are able to pause, seek God's guidance, and move forward with confidence. It is in these moments that your faith becomes most visible, shining brightly for all to see. People may not always articulate it, but they notice. They see that while circumstances might shake others, they cannot shake you. Radiating peace does not mean you are oblivious to the struggles of life. It does not mean you ignore pain or pretend that everything is perfect. Instead, it means that your heart is anchored in God's promises, no matter what storms arise. You may feel the winds and the waves, but they cannot overwhelm you because your foundation is unshakable. You understand that God's peace is not a denial of reality, but a declaration of His power over it. Think about how this peace influences your relationships. When others are frantic, you bring calm. When conflicts arise, you diffuse them with grace. When loved ones are weighed down by their burdens, you offer them a sense of hope and assurance. Your presence becomes a reflection of God's presence, and your words carry the weight of His truth. This is what it means to be a vessel of His peace. This peace is also a form of spiritual armor. It protects you from the lies of the enemy, who seeks to sow seeds of fear and doubt in your heart. When the world whispers you're not enough, God's peace reminds you that His strength is sufficient. When the enemy tries to convince you that the storm will destroy you, His peace reassures you that God is your refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. To radiate peace in the midst of chaos is one of the clearest signs that God is with you. It is not just about feeling calm, it is about living in the assurance of His presence, power, and promises. This peace transforms how you face every trial, and it allows you to be a light in the darkness for others. It is a supernatural quality that sets you apart and declares without words that you walk with God. Second sign, your heart is drawn to serve others selflessly. When God's presence resides within you, one of the clearest signs is the transformation of your heart, a deep, unshakable pull towards serving others without expecting anything in return. This selfless love is not born of obligation or a desire for recognition. It is a reflection of God's love working through you. It is the natural outpouring of His presence, a divine mark that sets you apart. Service rooted in God's presence is not limited to grand gestures or public acts. It often manifests in the small, quiet ways you extend love to others. Perhaps it's the listening ear you offer to someone in pain, the time you give to help a struggling friend, or the simple kindness you show to a stranger. These acts, though seemingly ordinary, carry extraordinary power because they are fueled by the Spirit of God within you. When you walk with God, your motives for serving others shift dramatically. The world teaches us to ask, "What's in it for me?" But when God's presence fills your heart, the question becomes, how can I reflect God's love to those around me? This shift is profound. It means your service is not transactional but transformational. You serve not to gain but to give, not to impress but to bless. Selfless service is a hallmark of divine anointing because it mirrors the very nature of God. Jesus Himself said, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve." Mark 10:45. When you walk closely with God, you begin to reflect this same heart of humility and compassion. It is no longer about what you can achieve for yourself, but about how you can be a vessel for His love in the lives of others. This selflessness is not always easy, and it often requires sacrifices. You may find yourself giving up time, energy, or resources for the sake of others. At times, the world may view your selflessness as foolishness, questioning why you give so much when there is nothing tangible to gain. But to you, the rewards are far greater than anything this world can offer. There is a deep joy and fulfillment that comes from serving others in the name of God, a joy that the world cannot understand or replicate. Your desire to serve also extends beyond those who are easy to love. God's presence compels you to reach out to the marginalized, the forgotten, and even those who have wronged you. This kind of love is not human, it is divine. It is evidence that God is working in your heart, transforming it to reflect His own. You find yourself forgiving when others hold grudges, giving when others hoard, and loving when others walk away. When you carry God's presence, you begin to see people through His eyes. You no longer judge them by their outward appearances or their past mistakes. Instead, you see their worth and potential as children of God. This perspective fuels your desire to serve because you understand that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to impact a life for eternity. Selfless service also brings you closer to God. Each time you extend love to another person, you are fulfilling His command to love your neighbor as yourself, Mark 12:31. In doing so, you not only bless others but also deepen your relationship with Him. Serving becomes an act of worship, a way of honoring the one who first loved you. This kind of service often requires stepping out of your comfort zone. It might mean giving when you feel you have little to spare, speaking words of encouragement when you yourself feel weak, or standing up for someone who cannot stand up for themselves. These moments are not about your strength, but about God's strength working through you. They are opportunities for His love to shine brightly in a dark world. And the beauty of serving selflessly is that it creates a ripple effect. When others experience the love of God through your actions, they are inspired to do the same. Your service becomes a testimony of His goodness, igniting a chain reaction of kindness, compassion, and hope. This is the power of carrying God's presence. It transforms not only you but also those around you. To serve others selflessly is to live out the heart of God. It is to be His hands and feet in a world desperate for love. This sign is unmistakable because it stands in stark contrast to the self-centeredness of the world. When your heart is drawn to serve others, not for applause or reward, but out of a deep love for God, you are walking in His presence, and His light is shining through you. Third sign, you experience a heightened awareness of right and wrong. When you carry God's presence, your spirit becomes finely tuned to the voice of divine truth. You develop an acute awareness of right and wrong, a moral clarity that transcends personal opinions, cultural norms, or societal pressures. This heightened discernment is not merely the product of your upbringing or intellect. It is a gift from God, an unmistakable sign that His Spirit is actively working within you. This awareness often feels like an inner compass, gently but firmly guiding you toward righteousness and away from compromise. It is not a loud, condemning voice, but a quiet conviction that stirs your soul. Even when the world rationalizes certain behaviors, you cannot. You feel an unmistakable tug in your heart when something does not align with God's truth. This discernment sharpens your ability to distinguish between what is good and what merely appears good, between what is godly and what is deceptive. When you walk with God, this awareness becomes part of your daily life. It affects how you make decisions, how you treat others, and how you navigate challenges. You begin to realize that morality is not relative. It is rooted in God's unchanging character. You no longer rely solely on your feelings or the opinions of others to determine what is right. Instead, you measure your actions against the eternal standard of God's Word. This alignment brings a sense of peace and purpose even when your choices are difficult or unpopular. This heightened awareness also extends to the unseen realms of life. You become more sensitive to the spiritual forces at work around you. You discern when something is leading you closer to God and when it is pulling you away. This spiritual sensitivity helps you avoid pitfalls and distractions that could derail your journey of faith. It empowers you to walk in obedience, not out of fear but out of love for the one who guides you. However, this awareness is not without its challenges. The more clearly you see right and wrong, the more difficult it can be to navigate a world that often blurs the lines between them. You may find yourself standing alone in your convictions, misunderstood or even ridiculed for your unwillingness to compromise. Yet this is where the presence of God becomes your greatest strength. He gives you the courage to stand firm, knowing that your choices honor Him, even when they cost you something in the eyes of the world. This moral clarity also deepens your empathy and compassion. You do not use your awareness to judge or condemn others. Instead, it drives you to extend grace and truth. You recognize that everyone is on their own journey, and you feel a burden to lovingly guide others toward God's light. This balance of truth and love is a powerful testimony of His presence in your life. It shows the world that walking with God is not about self-righteousness, but about humble obedience and a desire to reflect His character. Your heightened awareness of right and wrong also transforms how you view your own shortcomings. You become more attuned to the areas in your life where you fall short of God's standards. But instead of sinking into shame, you are drawn to repentance and renewal. You understand that God's correction is not condemnation, but an act of love, meant to refine and restore you. This ongoing process of growth is another sign of His active presence in your life. This discernment brings with it a deep sense of responsibility. You are no longer content to live passively or go along with the crowd. You feel a calling to be a light in the darkness, to speak truth in love, and to stand up for what is right, even when it is inconvenient or unpopular. This responsibility is not a burden but a privilege, a way of partnering with God to bring His kingdom to earth. Over time, this heightened awareness becomes second nature. It shapes how you think, speak, and act. It becomes a lens through which you see the world and a foundation on which you build your life. It protects you from falling into the traps of sin and self-deception, and it equips you to navigate life's complexities with wisdom and integrity. This is the power of walking with God. He not only leads you but also transforms you from within. To experience a heightened awareness of right and wrong is to live in alignment with God's heart. It is to feel His Spirit nudging you, guiding you, and empowering you to choose the path of righteousness, no matter the cost. This sign is unmistakable because it changes not only how you live but also who you are. It is evidence that God's presence is alive and active within you, shaping you into the person He created you to be. Fourth sign: your prayers are powerful and impactful. When you carry God's presence, your prayers take on a unique power that goes beyond human understanding. They are no longer mere words spoken into the void. They become dynamic conversations with the Creator of the universe. This is one of the most unmistakable signs of God's presence in your life. Your prayers carry authority, produce results, and create change, both in your life and in the lives of others. Prayer, for those who walk with God, is not a ritual or a routine. It is an intimate dialogue with the One who knows you better than you know yourself. It is not confined to specific times or places. Instead, it becomes a continuous connection, a lifeline that keeps you rooted in God's will. This connection transforms your prayers from mere petitions to powerful declarations of faith, aligning your heart with His and unlocking His divine intervention. The power of your prayers stems from the fact that they are not self-centered but spirit-led. When God's presence is within you, your desires begin to align with His will. You no longer pray for superficial or selfish things. Instead, you pray for things that reflect His heart: peace, healing, justice, restoration, and the salvation of others. Your prayers are fueled by faith, not fear, and they carry the weight of God's authority because they are in harmony with His divine plan. This alignment with God's will gives your prayers a sense of purpose and clarity. You are no longer guessing or hoping. You are confidently speaking into existence the promises of God. When you pray for others, you feel the Spirit moving through you, guiding your words and filling you with compassion. Your prayers become an extension of God's love, touching lives and breaking chains in ways you may not even realize. When you carry God's presence, you begin to see the tangible results of your prayers. Situations that once seemed impossible suddenly shift. Doors that were closed begin to open. Healing takes place physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You witness God's hand at work, and your faith grows stronger with every answered prayer. Even in the moments when the answers are delayed, you feel His peace and assurance, knowing that His timing is perfect and His plans are good. The power of your prayers is also evident in the boldness with which you approach God. You come to Him not as a stranger or a distant observer, but as His beloved child. You understand that prayer is not about convincing God to act, but about partnering with Him to bring His will to earth. This boldness is not arrogance, it is confidence born out of a deep relationship with Him. As Hebrews 4:16 declares, "Let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need." Your prayers are impactful because they are persistent. You do not give up after one attempt, you keep pressing in, trusting that God hears you and will respond. This persistence is not about wearing God down, but about demonstrating your faith in His promises. You know that prayer is both a privilege and a responsibility, and you take it seriously. You intercede for your family, your community, and even those who have wronged you, because you understand the power of standing in the gap for others. Another hallmark of powerful prayer is the sense of peace and assurance it brings. When you pray, you feel a release, as if a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. This is because you know that you are placing your burdens in the hands of the Almighty. You trust that He is in control, and that His answers, whether they come as yes, no, or wait, are always for your good and His glory. This peace is a testimony to those around you, showing them the transformative power of a life connected to God. Your prayers also become a source of strength during trials. When the storms of life rage, you turn to prayer not as a last resort, but as your first response. You find solace and direction in His presence, and your prayers become a shield that guards your heart against fear and doubt. This resilience is a clear sign that you are walking with God, for only those who carry His presence can face life's challenges with such unwavering faith. Perhaps the most impactful aspect of your prayers is the way they inspire others. When people see the results of your prayers, when they witness the peace, joy, and breakthroughs in your life, they are drawn to God. Your testimony becomes a living example of His power, and your prayers become a catalyst for their own faith journey. This ripple effect is one of the most beautiful ways God uses you to expand His kingdom. To carry God's presence is to have the privilege and power of prayer that changes everything. It is to speak with the Creator, align with His will, and see His hand at work in your life and the lives of others. It is a sign that you are not just living for God, you are living with Him, partnering in His purpose for the world. Fifth sign, you inspire others without even trying. One of the most profound and subtle signs of carrying God's presence is the impact you have on others, often without being fully aware of it. When God dwells within you, His light shines through you in a way that naturally inspires and uplifts those around you. You don't have to strive to be noticed, admired, or followed. Your life speaks volumes on its own. This kind of influence is not about charisma or charm. It is about the unmistakable presence of God radiating through your words, actions, and very existence. When you carry God's presence, people are drawn to you not because of what you have, but because of who you are. It's not about material wealth, status, or worldly achievements. Instead, it's about the peace, joy, and authenticity that flow from your life. People notice that there is something different about you, something they cannot quite put into words. They are drawn to the light within you, the reflection of God's character, which offers hope, comfort, and direction. You inspire others by simply living out your faith. Your actions align with your words, and your integrity shines through in everything you do. People see how you handle challenges, how you treat others, and how you carry yourself with grace and humility. They observe your ability to remain calm in chaos, kind in the face of hostility, and steadfast in your convictions. Without realizing it, you become a role model, demonstrating what it looks like to walk with God in a world that often opposes Him. The inspiration you provide is not limited to believers, it reaches everyone you encounter. Those who may not share your faith are still moved by the authenticity and compassion you display. They may not understand the source of your strength, but they feel its impact. Your life becomes a silent sermon, preaching the love, hope, and power of God without the need for words. This quiet but profound influence can plant seeds in the hearts of others, drawing them closer to God over time. Your ability to inspire others also comes from the way you handle adversity. When life storms come, people watch how you respond. Do you crumble under pressure? Or do you stand firm in faith? Do you give in to despair? Or do you rise with resilience and hope? When they see you facing trials with courage and unwavering trust in God, they are inspired to do the same. Your life becomes a testimony of God's faithfulness, showing others that they too can overcome their struggles by leaning on Him. Inspiring others does not require grand gestures or public platforms. Sometimes it's the small, unnoticed acts of kindness and love that leave the greatest impact. A simple word of encouragement, a genuine smile, or a helping hand can touch someone's life in ways you may never fully realize. When you carry God's presence, even your smallest actions are infused with His power, making them far more impactful than you could imagine. Your inspiration often comes from your authenticity. People are not moved by perfection, they are moved by your willingness to be real. When you are open about your struggles, your fears, and how God has carried you through them, you give others permission to do the same. Your vulnerability becomes a source of strength for others, showing them that they don't have to have it all together to experience God's love and grace. This authenticity breaks down walls and builds connections, making your life a beacon of hope for those who feel lost or alone. What makes this inspiration so unique is that it is effortless. You are not trying to impress others or win their approval. Your focus is on God, not on gaining attention or admiration. This selfless orientation is what makes your influence so powerful. People see that your motivation is pure, and they are drawn to the source of your strength, God Himself. Without even realizing it, you become a vessel through which He touches the lives of those around you. This kind of influence also has a ripple effect. When people are inspired by your life, they begin to change their own. They start to make better choices, treat others with more kindness, and seek a deeper purpose. Your light ignites a spark in them, and they, in turn, inspire others. This chain reaction is one of the most beautiful ways God's presence works in and through us. Your life becomes a catalyst for transformation, not because of anything you do on your own, but because of the power of God within you. The truth is, you may never fully know the extent of the impact you have on others. Many times, the lives you touch and the hearts you move will remain unknown to you. But that's the beauty of carrying God's presence. It's not about recognition or accolades, it's about being faithful to Him and allowing His light to shine through you. Whether you see the results or not, trust that your life is making a difference. You are inspiring others, not by your own strength or effort, but by the undeniable presence of God within you. Sixth sign: you face challenges with unshakable faith. One of the most powerful and unmistakable signs that you carry God's presence is the way you face challenges. While others may crumble under the weight of adversity, you stand firm, your faith unshaken. This resilience is not born out of your own strength, but flows from the deep well of trust you have in God. It is a testimony to His presence in your life, a reflection of His power at work within you. Life's challenges are inevitable. The storms come for everyone, believers and non-believers alike. But the difference lies in how you respond to those storms. When God's presence resides in you, your response to difficulties sets you apart. You do not deny the pain, nor do you pretend that everything is fine. Instead, you face your struggles head-on, anchored in the knowledge that God is with you and that He has a plan even in the midst of chaos. Unshakable faith does not mean you never feel fear or doubt. It means that despite those emotions, you choose to trust God. You cling to His promises, even when circumstances seem to contradict them. This kind of faith is not blind optimism, it is a confident assurance that God is in control, even when you cannot see the full picture. You understand that He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating everything for your good and His glory. When you carry God's presence, challenges become opportunities for growth rather than reasons for despair. You recognize that trials are not punishments but refinements. Just as gold is purified by fire, your character is strengthened through adversity. Each challenge you face becomes a stepping stone toward greater faith, wisdom, and perseverance. You emerge from the fire, not burned but refined, more radiant and more like the person God created you to be. Your unshakable faith also impacts those around you. People watch how you handle adversity, and they are inspired by your calm, steadfast demeanor. They see your ability to remain hopeful when others would give up, and it makes them wonder what gives you such strength. Your faith becomes a silent testimony, a light in the darkness that points others toward God. You may not always realize it, but your unwavering trust in God during difficult times has the power to encourage and uplift those who are struggling with their own battles. Your faith also manifests in the way you pray during challenging times. Instead of complaining or questioning God, you come to Him with a heart of surrender and trust. You pray not just for deliverance, but for wisdom, strength, and the ability to grow through the trial. This kind of prayer reflects a deep relationship with God, one built on trust and intimacy. It is a sign that you do not see challenges as obstacles, but as opportunities to draw closer to Him. Another hallmark of unshakable faith is your ability to maintain joy in the midst of trials. This joy is not based on your circumstances, but on your relationship with God. It is a supernatural joy that comes from knowing that you are loved, that you are not alone, and that God is working all things together for your good. This joy confounds the world because it defies logic. How can someone smile, hope, or even thrive in the face of such difficulty? The answer is simple: God's presence. When you carry God's presence, your faith becomes a shield that protects you from the attacks of fear, doubt, and discouragement. It does not mean you are exempt from challenges, but it means you are equipped to face them. Your faith acts as a fortress, a safe place where you can take refuge during life's storms. You know that no matter how fierce the battle, God is fighting for you, and the victory is already won. Unshakable faith also empowers you to take bold steps forward, even when the path is uncertain. You trust that God will provide a way even when there seems to be no way. This trust allows you to move forward in obedience, knowing that He is guiding your steps. You do not allow fear to paralyze you or keep you from pursuing the purpose God has for your life. Instead, you walk in confidence, knowing that He is with you every step of the way. Ultimately, facing challenges with unshakable faith is one of the clearest signs of God's presence in your life. It shows that your confidence is not in yourself but in Him. It reveals a heart that is fully surrendered to His will, a life that is built on the solid foundation of His promises. This kind of faith is not something you can manufacture. It is the result of walking closely with God, trusting Him completely, and knowing without a doubt that He is faithful no matter what. Seventh sign: you feel an undeniable closeness to God. One of the most profound and unmistakable signs that you carry God's presence is the deep, intimate sense of closeness you feel with Him. This is not a fleeting emotion or a momentary experience. It is a constant awareness of His presence in your life. It's a relationship so real and personal that it feels as though God is walking beside you, guiding you, comforting you, and speaking directly to your heart. When you carry God's presence, you don't just know about Him, you know Him. This intimacy goes beyond religious rituals, doctrines, or intellectual understanding. It is a living, breathing connection with the Creator of the universe, and it changes everything. You wake up each day with the assurance that you are not alone, that the one who formed the stars is with you in every step, every decision, and every moment of your life. This closeness is marked by a sense of peace that surpasses understanding. Even in the midst of life's chaos, you feel grounded because you know God is near. His presence is not confined to a church service or a quiet prayer moment. It permeates every aspect of your life. Whether you are at work, spending time with family, or facing a difficult challenge, you carry a sense of His companionship that cannot be shaken. You begin to hear His voice more clearly, not as an audible sound, but as a gentle whisper in your spirit. His guidance becomes unmistakable, leading you down paths you might not have chosen on your own, but that you know are right. This closeness makes decision-making less about your own reasoning and more about seeking His will. You feel His nudges, His corrections, and His encouragement, all of which affirm that He is actively involved in your life. This intimacy with God also transforms how you see yourself. You no longer define your worth by the world's standards, but by His love for you. You understand that you are His child, cherished and chosen. This realization fills you with confidence and security, allowing you to walk through life with your head held high, knowing that you are deeply loved. This identity shift is one of the most powerful results of carrying God's presence. It frees you from the need for external validation and anchors you in His unchanging truth. When you feel close to God, your prayers become more conversational and heartfelt. You no longer approach Him as a distant deity, but as a loving Father and trusted friend. You share your joys, fears, and struggles with Him, and you listen for His response. This kind of prayer is not a duty but a delight, a sacred time when you feel His presence enveloping you. It is in these moments that you experience His love most tangibly, as if He is wrapping His arms around you and reminding you that you are never alone. This closeness also manifests in your desire to spend time in His Word. The Bible comes alive to you, not as a collection of ancient texts, but as the living, breathing Word of God. As you read, you feel Him speaking directly to your heart, revealing truths that apply to your life in profound ways. His Word becomes a source of strength, wisdom, and comfort, and you find yourself longing to dive deeper into its treasures. This hunger for His Word is a sign of His active presence in your life, drawing you closer to Him with each passing day. Carrying God's presence also deepens your worship. It is no longer just about singing songs or attending services, it becomes a lifestyle. Everything you do becomes an act of worship, a way of honoring and glorifying Him. You find yourself thanking Him in the small moments, praising Him in the midst of trials, and celebrating His goodness in every season. This kind of worship flows naturally from your relationship with Him and strengthens the bond you share. The closeness you feel to God also impacts your relationships with others. His love fills you to the point of overflow, enabling you to love others more deeply and selflessly. You see people through His eyes with compassion and grace, and you feel a burden to share His love with them. This outward expression of His presence is a powerful testimony to the closeness you share with Him. It shows the world that you are not just living for God, but living with Him. Perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this closeness is the way it carries you through life's difficulties. When you face challenges, you don't feel abandoned or hopeless because you know God is with you. His presence becomes your anchor, your refuge, and your source of strength. You feel Him comforting you, whispering promises of hope and victory, and reminding you that He is working all things together for your good. This closeness does not remove the pain of trials, but it gives you the courage and resilience to face them. Ultimately, this closeness to God is the most personal and profound sign of carrying His presence. It is a relationship that transforms your life from the inside out, filling you with peace, joy, and purpose. It is the quiet assurance that no matter what happens, you are never alone. God is with you, guiding you, loving you, and walking beside you every step of the way. This intimacy is the heartbeat of a life lived in His presence, a constant reminder that you are His and He is yours. As we reflect on these 7 unmistakable signs of carrying God's presence, it becomes clear that walking with God is not about perfection or a life free of challenges. It's about transformation, a daily journey where His Spirit shapes you, strengthens you, and empowers you to live with purpose, peace, and passion. These signs are not just markers of His presence, they are invitations to deepen your relationship with Him, to trust Him more fully, and to let His light shine through you. You may not see all these signs in your life at once, and that's okay. God meets us where we are, gently leading us step by step. His presence is not something you earn, it is something He freely gives to those who seek Him. So whether you feel close to Him right now or feel like you're still searching, know this: God desires to walk with you, to dwell within you, and to use your life for His glory. Remember, carrying God's presence is not about who you are, but about who He is in you. It's His peace that calms your storms, His love that inspires your service, His truth that sharpens your discernment, and His power that makes your prayers impactful. It is his unshakable faithfulness that strengthens you in trials, and his intimate closeness that reminds you that you are never alone. These signs are not about showcasing your greatness, but about pointing others to the greatness of God. As you go forth today, take a moment to reflect on these signs and ask yourself, am I walking with God? If you see these signs in your life, celebrate his presence and let it inspire you to draw even closer to him. If you feel far from him, let this be your reminder that his arms are always open, ready to welcome you back into his presence. You were created to carry his light, to live with purpose, and to inspire others through your faith. So embrace this journey with courage and confidence, knowing that the Creator of the universe walks beside you. Let his presence fill you, guide you, and transform you, so that your life becomes a living testimony of his love and power. Thank you for listening today. May this message not only encourage you, but also remind you of the incredible gift of walking with God. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and together, let's spread his light in a world that desperately needs it. Stay blessed, walk boldly, and remember, when you carry God's presence, you carry the greatest treasure of all. Until next time, may God's peace, love, and guidance be with you always.